Hello, my name is Riley Barnett. Currently I'm an environmental health and safety specialist with Kinder Morgan. Right now I'm studying to complete my associates in occupational safety and health at Odessa College. And today we're going to discuss ergonomics. Ergonomics is something that is interlaced or intertwined into our daily lives, whether we're at work or we're at home. Ergonomics pretty much affects anything and everything we do in some form or fashion. Forgive my crude setup. I actually lost my mouse. I think I left it at work, but we'll go through some of these slides. I don't have very many, so forgive me having to switch back and forth, but pretty much ergonomics is a fancy word for the science of arranging and designing a workplace to fit the worker's body and their needs. Ergonomics is not just how we work at a computer workstation. It can apply to every job and every workstation. By using the basics of hazard evaluation at a computer workstation, you can apply the principles to any workstation. But you can also apply those at home too. Some of the ergonomics related issues that can result from poor body posture or contact stress or overexertion can be numerous. But some of the ones I'd like to discuss, a lot of times we've all pretty much heard of carpal tunnel syndrome. And that is pretty much the inflammation of the nerves in the wrists and the tendons in the wrist, which results in a tingling or numbing sensation in the hands. And that's a result of constant repetitive motion typing on a keyboard. And there's only so many ways that they can correct that, and typically it's through surgery. And something as menial as typing on a keyboard all day long can result in having to have a surgical operation to repair that. It's crazy, I know, but it happens very often to a lot of folks. Some of the other things we have to worry about are tendinitis, which carpal tunnel is kind of related to tendinitis, but not quite. But tendinitis is inflammation of the tendons. You can get that in your fingers, your wrists, your elbows. A lot of times people get it in their knees. You can have low back pain or disc-related issues of the back or spine. There's multiple issues and disorders that can arise from poor ergonomics. In my industry, the oil and gas industry, I work in an office a good chunk of the day, not the entire day, but a good chunk, often enough to where I have to let my eyes take a rest from looking at the computer, give my hands a rest from typing, get up out of the chair, go for a walk. But the biggest issues I see when I visit work locations are oftentimes awkward body position. You'll see someone performing maintenance on a pump, and they'll be pretzeled up around that pump trying to get to a certain area of the pump, but there's all this other equipment in the way. And if they stay there for extended periods of time, or if they do that for a certain amount of time every day, that can result in musculoskeletal disorders of the back, the knees, the hips, the arms. A lot of times I'll see them, they'll be so wedged into an area to where they're kind of being squished up by the walls of the pump that they come out and they have these deep red marks across their arms or their chest from pressing up against the wall of that pump or other piping. And I can only imagine how much pressure that puts on their body to leave those deep, almost bruise-like marks. But if they do that long enough, it can cut blood flow off and result in nerve damage. There's several things that can arise from just the most menial tasks that we don't think about, but we should every day. some of the things we, do daily are pick objects up. If we apply that to work, we call that material handling. But at home, we call it picking up after our kids. But some of the issues that can result from poor body posture are low back strains, muscle strains and sprains, and fatigue. But then that's a catch-22. If you're fatigued, then your body positioning and body posture gets worse because you're trying to compensate for being fatigued. Some of the disorders associated with those are tendon and ligament disorders and also nerve-related disorders. There are several of those. Some of the outcomes of poor ergonomics are musculoskeletal injuries, nerve disorders, fatigue, and traumatic injuries. Some of the other things that can be affected are your performance. You can have decreased productivity and very poor quality of work. Some of the ways to mitigate those are to purchase equipment that are designed to improve the workplace quality, such as chairs, keyboards, trays, footrests, back braces, specialized tools, etc. The list can go on and on. Like I stated earlier, ergonomics literally affects nearly everything we do. Some of the things associated with low back pain, the reason I want to talk about low back pain is because I have injured my back before, and a typical candidate for someone who would experience low back pain is someone between the ages of 30 and 59. Slightly overweight, like myself. Spends a good part of the day sitting, like myself. And they're not in peak physical condition, and they don't work out very often. One way to improve your one way to avoid low back pain from poor body positioning or poor ergonomics is to make sure you're in good physical condition. And that can help you avoid a lot of issues associated with ergonomics. If you're in good physical condition, your body can repair itself faster and stay healthy longer. If you're not in the greatest shape, it takes longer for your body to heal. And if you do the same thing every day, then you never really catch up from the first time it gets injured. So there's a lot of things that can come up as a result of poor ergonomics. And like we said, ergonomics is the design of the workplace to fit the worker's needs. Pretty much you set your workplace up to provide you with the safest and healthiest workplace possible. And no two workplaces are going to be the same because not everybody's the same. That's why we do workplace hazard evaluations or ergonomic evaluations. Especially where I work, we kind of lump those two together, but we look for the hazards, but we also look for the ergonomic issues. And it's this 2-page checklist. You go through every workplace, and you check it off one at a time, make sure that this is there, that is there, this is there, etc. But some of the things we look at are the design of the workplace as a whole, and then the way the workplace is set up for the person or the individual. And this can include anything from chairs, desks, computers, to equipment, tools, and the way they're set up. If you're working at a work site and you have a toolbox that sits on the ground and you're constantly having to get in that toolbox, you don't want it sitting on the ground. You want it up a little higher to where all you have to do is walk over to it, open it up, get out a tool. Because if you're constantly having to bend over to get those tools, then you've just created an ergonomic issue or ergonomic hazard, especially for your back. And a lot of times people suffer from back pain. I think it's 80% of workers in the U.S. have experienced low back pain at least once in their life. That's a lot of folks. Like I said, where I work, we try to do these at least once a year on every workplace. But if anything changes in the workplace, we got a new piece of equipment, or we bring in a new employee that will redo that assessment or analysis to make sure that we capture anything that might have changed as a result. But you know, the key thing to think about when it comes to ergonomics is, you know, the large picture is the way in which the workplace is designed, and then on the small picture is the way the workplace is designed for you. So try not to forget one when focusing in on the other, because they go hand in hand. If you design a workplace to fit the needs of every person, then sometimes someone gets left out. You know, they have to, you know, if everybody on your work staff is 6'6", except for Sally, she's 5'9", and you have everything on the top shelf, then she's constantly having to use a ladder or reach up over her head. So what you try to do is find the middle and stay there. That way everybody can be as happy as possible and safe as possible. Now, you know, just take care of your body. You know, learn whenever it's had enough, take a break. That way you're not pushing yourself to the extreme, and you're not putting yourself at risk of suffering any kind of musculoskeletal disorder associated with poor body positioning, fatigue, etc. And also help out your coworkers. If you notice that they're having difficulties, help them out. Try to come up with a better solution of getting the job done. You know, they always say we're our brother's keepers. We kind of are, especially at work. Because a lot of times we spend more time with the people we work with than we get to spend with our own families. And we can't take home a paycheck if we're laid up with a back problem or knee problems. So if we don't take care of ourselves, or if we don't help our buddies at work, our coworkers out, then we get to spend a lot more time with our families, but not in the way we want to. That's pretty much all I have on ergonomics. It's a very lengthy topic. We can spend all day talking about it, all week. But be sure to take some of this information with you. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I appreciate it. Thank you.